Hello, and welcome to an Odyssey raid guide. In this video, we will be tackling the Nexus of Reality, a new raid brought to us in DLC 7. This is Anhur, and I am joined by...
Fuzion,
Fuzion,
Dreadwolf,
Mitchell,
Tesseract,
Flamefury.
This team consisted of an ice tank, Cold Fusion, an electric healer, Bird, a nature healer, Oscar, quantum controller, Tesseract, mental controller, Project Angel, with 3 damage players, stable, who is Hardlight, with Obsidian Chill and Sentinel as ice. What we've got in this particular video is a 4-way split. In the top left is Tesseract, top right is Bird, bottom left is stable, and bottom right is Cold Fusion. And we begin in the first room where we encounter the 4 out-of-sync Luthers. So Cold Fusion, as the solo tank for this raid, how do you tackle this?
Well, normally, when the cutscene ends, I ask the group to step back. This gives a good gap between myself and the group, so I can get the aggro of the Luthers very quickly. And then we start off by throwing Inescapable Storm, then clipping it with Reflect to get my aggro buff up. I normally have Cybernetic Luther and say Space close to me, but there's going to be a couple of Lexes that will tend to go to the group straight away, such as General, and you'll have to keep on applying your Inescapable Storm on him just to get him to come towards you. And that's basically it then. Just hold block and keep on rotating your mitigation powers and let the group do the job.
Yeah, thanks to Hotfix they made the bosses don't block break anymore, thank God.
And as damage players, myself and Dread and Flame, we usually wait for a target call. The Luthers you take down in this room will then be the Luthers you face at the conclusion, the end room. So you can kind of pick your targets. There is a feat involved with that as well, which we'll cover another time. In this video, which targets did you guys select?
Cybernetic Luther was one of them. We tend to avoid taking out General Luther because he's really difficult to have in the last room. His teleport move makes him really awkward. He's also really awkward because of that in the left-hand room, which we'll get to eventually. But he's one that we definitely avoid picking for the last room. I think the other one we had was it Future? Or was it Professor? At the end we ended up with Cybernetic, Professor and Future.
Great stuff. And if you look at Tesseract's view there on the top left, it's a great panoramic view. The arena itself has this circular thing on the floor, which you can kind of use as a point of reference. You'll notice that Cold Fusion as the tank is at the back there, holding them on the inner rim, and the team itself is in a semicircle on behind that. So any AoE target, for example, yeah, the Cybernetic Luther's arm throw will generally avoid you because of the way you're facing.
As you can see,
it's just gone down.
As you can see on Tessa's Tessa's screen right there as well, the General Luther there went after her with the teleport and the flurry, and then got pulled back in.
the outer rim from one side to the other side is pretty much the range of heals as well. It's best just to stick in that.
As you can see, like in my clip in the bottom right hand corner, as I mentioned earlier, I'm always trying to face the Lex's group, 2 or 3 that I've got aggroed, so it's easier for them to avoid any attacks because the Lexes would do a 180-degree turn, and that gives the player enough time, if their Lex is facing them, to move out the way or to do a combo that they need to pull off.
And they're down.
I have a question for those of you that has been doing this more than I have. The 2 Lexes that you down in the first battle, does it matter which one you down first? That, like, does it depend on? Let me rephrase this.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I know what you mean. If you take General down first, does he then appear on the left or the right when you go through the raid itself? Is that what you mean?
You just read my mind. Are you mental?
That's a good question. I don't actually quite know. In this instance, now it's moved on to General Luther.
This is the right room, isn't it?
Yes.
Each of the 2 side rooms that you get, which is the control room and the security room, they each have a mechanic that is unique to that room. Regardless of whichever boss you face there, the mechanic will remain the same. And in this room, the mechanic is that at various points throughout the fight, an ad will spawn called the Guise of the Nexus, and he will target one of your group members and you will stun them.
There's another mechanic involving you get a white aura on your on the head of your toon, and it makes a
You've just
pulsing
seen it
aura.
on the bottom right there on Cold Fusion.
Yeah.
And anyone around that person gets stunned.
It's important to get that
stunned.
Guise down as soon as possible, though, because if he hits your tank or one of your healers or any of your group, really, it can be a wipe.
Yeah, fast response times are necessary in any content you do, but as a damage player, the moment that Guise of the Nexus is up, you need to switch instantly, because he can lock down any one of your team members, and if he takes the tank, then the aggro can start switching to other players. If it's your healers, they can't get their heals off.
Yeah, voice communication here is a really big help to be able to shout out that I'm hit by the guys.
What we've noticed as well, when you've got General Luther in this kind of room and he's teleporting back and forth, the tank's doing the utmost to keep him focused on him, but he does have the mechanic where he'll teleport and attack somebody. If you have any backup or sidekicks or Mr. Boos and things, they count as players, I guess is the term we could use, and he does often teleport to them. So you could use that to your advantage. If you call them up one after another, one goes down, then the next person calls their in. They just count as somebody else that General may attack, keeping his focus off of one of your teammates.
If it's a watcher, I think it's pretty much guaranteed it goes to that, isn't it?
Yeah. As you've noticed here, like if you've been watching the tanks segment of the video, you notice that the general is always teleporting. I always, when the general teleports, I don't stay in one area. I always follow him. And what I normally tell the group to do is the first thing I do is I always try to face the Lex away from the group. So I tell the group to always go the opposite of where Lex is facing me. So again, they can be protected from any of his AOE attacks, such as his Flamefury, which on some occasions has one-shot me for up to about 12k. So you can imagine how much damage most of the group will be taking when he's facing them.
Coming back to the teleport mechanic, an important thing to remember is if he teleports to you, it's not worth trying to roll away. If his attack will follow you, and 9 times out of 10 you'll still die. If you block, the healers can heal you through it, and it's not so much heal you through it. You should be left with just enough health that they can fix it.
Yeah.
Or at least pop a shield when you're halfway down.
I mean, if you're Quantum and you've got teleport, I'm pretty sure that gets you away from it, but I don't think anything else does.
A few people dying here. It was one of our older runs when we're still getting accustomed to the mechanics, and spacing became a bit of an issue. You can see people clustering up together. You make sure you want to keep your distance. You see Tesseract's top left point of view had the aura there. If she was in the middle of the team, it'd have done some significant damage.
I mean, that's true for pretty much every single boss fight in this raid. You can't stay clustered together. You need to be spread out as much as you can.
Yeah,
There's
so
that
it
many AoE attacks that just demolish people.
limits the amount of people that go down, and you can pick him up just as quick. So that's why it's always important to have everybody, if possible, on voice communication, so they can just shout out if they're going to get the person that's down.
What you just saw there as well pop up on the screen was reinforcements are approaching. He does have a enrage timer, we'll call it. So if you don't get him down by a certain point, then additional adds will come and overwhelm you, which is where usually the 2 tanks would come in, but that's compensated by having the 3 DPS, who will just put out enough damage to bypass that entirely. And now we've moved on to Futurelex in the left room. Standard tactics again, you can see Cold Fusion holding the aggro against the back of the room, making sure Future doesn't turn to the group.
On Ivy Bird's screen there, you can see the drone up here.
So
Yeah.
what I normally do here is I normally, as soon as somebody shouts out the drone has appeared, I normally wait for about 5 seconds and then I pull him in. You don't want to pull the drone in too early because obviously the DPS will focus them if they've got AoE based abilities, and so I leave it for a bit, and then I normally tell the DPS to hold off a little bit, wait until the buff comes up on Futurelex, as you'll see through this fight, and the drone will clear the buff from Lex.
It's really handy if you've got single target attacks to still focus on Futurelex, so he's still getting burned down even when the drone has been pulled in. If he's not ready to be taken down, you've still got some people burning Lex down.
Yeah, just to clarify that a bit more, the mechanic behind this room is he will give himself a buff, which will up his damage significantly. When he does that, you've just seen he raises his hand in the air and you can pull the team in. You can block through it, or when he does it, you can just break out and free yourself before you even landed. So what your tank is doing, timing it, so he brings the drone in. When the drone's taken down, it will emit a pulse which wipes that buff clean from Luther.
You can tell that by icons underneath his name. So for his buff, he will have a shield icon, which indicates his defense buff, and he will have a target icon, which will indicate an attack, a buff in his attack. And when the drone is pulled in and the wipe happens, those green icons will clear, and they won't be under his name anymore.
You have to be careful though. Just when the drone is about to die, if you hit it with a control effect, like a stun or a knockdown, sometimes the buff won't explode properly and cleanse the buff, which means you have to continue fighting him at his increased stats until another drone spawns.
I was wondering that as well. Is that actually a confirmed mechanic that the drone gets stunned, or is it just that sometimes there are duds, or is it a bug?
It's a bug that it happens, but it's definitely caused by getting stunned. As I found as we've been practicing the raid, that if I use Ionic Drain against the drone, which is a stunning attack, it won't explode properly ever. And
User joined your channel.
It's a pain that I can't use. I can't use one of my best healing powers when he's up.
Yeah. From a damage perspective, as Flame touched on, you really want to isolate your damage. When the drone's pulled in, you don't want to be taking it down too far until the buff is confirmed on being on Luther, because if you do, and it pulses, it won't wipe anything off. You have to wait for the next drone to appear.
Yeah. As you just seen there, Obsidian Chill went down, and there were 2 or 3 down in front of me. You've got to make a choice here as a tank. I decided not to get him up for one thing only. If I would have turned around and got one of them up, then Lex would have turned around and literally probably one-shot the entire raid group. So losing one or maybe two, depending on the role, is worth the risk rather than risking the entire raid going down. So you need to make choices like that when he's buffed. When he's not buffed, it's okay. You probably could go and pick him up, definitely.
It helps if you don't like the person as well. So you don't
Like
feel
to,
bad about leaving them down.
I'd like to point out as well, like in the previous room we talked about General Luther's personal mechanics. Future Lex, of course, also has personal mechanics, as you can see in the family reunion alert. He has the exact same mechanics. That he has the orange AoE field on the ground that you can't see initially, but he will turn your way and raise his hand, and you just get out of there as fast as you can. Because he will place that AoE field on the ground, and he also has a smoke AoE field that really doesn't do much damage, but every bit of damage avoided is good.
Yeah.
So upon taking those two sub-bosses down, you get to destroy these containers and carry some rods to the main room to activate the doorway. But as you do in classic comic book style, a Luther appears and launches an assault against you.
With a surprise spider.
Often found as the spider jumps in, it can do some heavy damage and even take a player out. So if you know it's coming, just block. After the cutscene, it should prevent any deaths.
Yeah, after the cutscene, everyone is moved to the middle of the room, and all the ads just jumps in at once. So directly after the cutscene, roll away, block, whatever you can. Just try to prevent as much damage as possible.
Yeah, that'll happen 3 times throughout the fight before the main boss comes up. So when
Yeah.
you've cleared one phase, just block in preparation for the next phase of ads that jump in.
Yeah, what we're seeing now is pretty inconsequential. It's a standard tank and spank. The tank will grab the aggro, pull them into the middle, and we just do our thing.
But when I think it's the spider, he drops some bombs sometimes. He drops about 3 or 4. This is an easy fight leading up to the end boss. But these bombs, if they're clustered around you, 3 or 4 of them, they can one shot. Yes, so always make sure that as soon as you see them, you get away from them as fast as possible.
They have got a massive timer on them, so there's really no excuse for just standing there and taking it to the face.
I've found that 1 bomb you can survive. 2 bombs you're going down, unless you're the tank, in which case 3 bombs you're going down.
Yeah. So yeah, we're on to the main boss now, aren't we? Before we move on to the next room.
Yeah.
Yep. He's come out. Again, if you look at Cold Fusion's screen in the bottom right, he's doing a teleport attack and just goes to a random player. Spins around and does some damage. It's pretty easy to avoid.
His teleport?
The damage itself, if you can see it coming, you could block, avoid the damage by rolling away.
When he teleports and reappears, there's an initial damage attack on the player that's closest to him, and it could one-shot you. So it's probably worth just keeping an eye on him. As soon as you see him teleport, just block. I know it could be anywhere on the circle, but it limits the amount of damage you take, definitely. From a tank point of view, you're going to see ads that spawn around the area. You can't pull these in. It doesn't matter how much aggro you apply on them. They won't come into you whatsoever. They'll go to anywhere they want to go, and they'll just explode. When this main guy gets to about 10%, he will on most occasions he will start teleporting a lot more than he did during the first half of the fight, and his attacks, like his spin attack right here, will become a lot more stronger. So it's just to be aware of that as well.
These volatile drones that spawn, there's a feat associated with those for destroying those before they actually get the chance to explode themselves.
Yeah.
The range on their explosions seems to be massive, and it'll hit anyone no matter where they are.
Yeah, you'll see a big blue pulse wave come out when they explode.
The actual damage of it is not huge, but every little bit sucks.
And now we've moved on to the Sentinels, which you have to take down both at the same time, so communication is paramount at this point. Multiple tactics can be employed here. If you are using 2 tanks, you can take a 4-and-4 split, 4 members on one side, 4 members on the other side, and damage him down at the same rate. Or, as you can see in this video, you can take your entire team down one tunnel, damage him down to about 5% health, and then switch back to the other side and do the same. So then both Sentinels will be at 5% health, and that's when you split your team into 2 groups. Just hit and take them down at the same time.
You just need to be wary though, because he will get a drone that comes up that shields him as well, so it's a little bit more negotiation there when you're trying to, if you have got a split of 2 different teams, a lot of communication needed there. So
Yeah,
they're
we always
unshielded.
make sure he's got the shield before we then start attacking to burn him down.
You can't attack the Sentinel because the shield will just be, you'll be hitting for ones on the shield. So yeah, you have to take his drone down accordingly.
Although you do need to watch out that you are still hitting for ones, because I do remember one specific run where we had taken him a bit too far down, and whilst we were waiting for the other team to catch up, we accidentally killed him through the shield.
Ouch.
I didn't know that was possible.
Well, you're still doing damage, even if it's only 1.
Another thing to watch out for when you're going through these corridors is those spark drones that will come up if you get too close to them. That's a part of a feat as well, but if you're behind by yourself running through these corridors and you wake one of those up, they will kill you. So keep an eye out for those.
So if you are running by yourself in these corridors, don't go close to them, basically. That's it.
Don't say hello to the sentries.
Yeah.
They're not
They're
the
very easy
talkative
to
bunch.
avoid. As long as you're not jumping over the top of them, then you should be alright.
As long as you're not shooting in their faces.
Especially if you're a flyer, just lick the ceiling.
But it's always best to have both sides have them in the shield phases before you start to make your main attack, and everyone's at the same point.
This is quite a popular boss mechanic in DC, I think, like working things down until they're about the same level and then taking them out at the same time. I've seen it in other games as well.
They've
Quite
definitely done it.
enjoyable and fun.
They've done it a couple of times in Origin Crisis. They fight in Brother in Arms with Superman and Lex.
I mean, there was early like signs of this with the Bat family as well. You had to
in
take them
caverns.
down. Yeah, you had to take them down at a particular time as well before you could finish the fight.
Any particular mechanics behind this boss at Cold Fusion that are worth mentioning? You can see him spinning around there.
He will.
What does
He
that
will
do?
do 2 things. He will. The first thing he'll do is he'll do like a he'll do an animation where he's like he's gathering strength, and this will if he hits you without any mitigation up, he could hit you up to about 3,000 to 4,000. The second animation after that, the second attack is obviously the whirlwind, and that could pull people in from halfway down the tunnel. It's that strong. So when you see this animation happen, when he charges into the tank, just be wary that you could be pulled in with the whirlwind attack just after. So it's worth throwing any control effect control effect items on yourself, you know, like a PvP trinket or winter wood from the tank, them really help. So
It's much like the
You
effects
can
of a
see
wing
Barrett
armor,
go
isn't it?
flying there.
Wing armors do the same thing.
yeah.
It's like a bigger, better version.
I mean, you've seen the mechanics before, so it should be, when you've witnessed it a couple of times, it should be easy to deal with.
They're just 100 times more powerful in this raid
Yeah, they suck you in really
than
fast.
anywhere else in the game.
So here we were DPS and the shield bots down. One team was a bit faster, so they held off on the main boss. But as soon as both are up, you just throw all of your supercharges or orbital strikes or whatever on them, and you just bring them down at the same time.
Yep.
You do have a buffer of about 5 to 10 seconds though. If you miss it, the robot will get back up with 50% health, and you have to start all over basically.
You can see the split there. They had Cold Fusion, Stable, and one controller on one side, since Stable was the highest DPSer, and both Sentinel and Fuzion Chill and the rest of the group went to the other side and nuked down both at the same time.
Yeah.
So we've moved on to the final room where we face off against the 2 out of sync Luthers that we killed in the first room and the in sync Luther himself.
So the Luthers are the out of sync Luthers are Cybernetic and Professor, and the Luther that's phased in is I think it's Space, I believe.
Yeah, it looks like Space Commander.
Yeah. So when I as soon as I enter this arena here, I the first thing I do is now I had a tactic where I would tank them in the middle, but and now I'm starting to tank them to the right hand side of the stairs. I take them as far as I can into the shield that you see behind me, and I pull everything over there so the group can use the center, they can use the sides, you know, to avoid any AoE attacks and stuff like that.
And with this fight, there's 2 mechanics that you really need to be looking at. The first one is the artifact mechanic, and that's going to change depending on what artifact you've got. A lot of them are quite similar to each other. They'll usually have some minor differences. In this particular run, we are finally saving Aquaman's Trident of Poseidon, which we failed to save during our Friday Night Legends stint. But the mechanic that has is these white circles that you can see all over the room. They will provide a damage buff to anybody that's standing inside of them.
Including the Lexes.
Including the bosses, yes. So
They get a bigger buff than us, sorry.
Yeah, we get a 10% buff, I think it was, for standing inside these vortices, and if the bosses end up inside them, they get a bigger buff.
I believe it's about 15 to 20%.
Yeah.
And the other mechanic, which we've been asked to explain a lot, is the white shields, the inevitability mechanic. So you'll see on my point of view at the moment, I've just got this white shield around me. It's got this pulsing aura around it. This shield will protect you against the inevitability attack, and it's the only thing that will protect you against the inevitability attack. That the primary Luther, so in this case Space Commander, they'll do it every 30 seconds or so. You get 2 shields to protect your group, and where you put them and how you manage them is the key to getting through this entire fight. The way that we manage it is the first shield has a designated spot that they will go to, either at the artifact or at the stairs or even just the centre of the room. The first shield will go there, and the rest of the group will head to that first shield. When the second shield comes up, you've got about 5 seconds before the inevitability attack goes off. When the inevitability attack goes off, the second shield has to leap in to shield the tank, because the tank can't stop tanking in order to move. So it does mean getting up close and personal with the other Lexes that you've got there.
What's important about that is when the person comes over with the second shield, it should go the tank, Lex, and yourself. So you should be behind the Lex all the time. You should not be facing the Lex behind the tank, because you're gonna have the AoE attacks hitting you.
Yeah,
I
the
just like
shields.
pointing out the shields themselves are completely random on which player they will go to.
As soon as the second shield pops up, you've only got like 2 to 5 seconds before the attack actually goes off. So as soon as that someone gets that second shield and they call it out or you see it, I always then switch to the Lex that's in phase, so then I can watch out for his attack and call it as soon as it appears. And you can tell he's going to do it because he gets the red skull over the top of him, and he'll stop what he's doing and just raise his arms up.
That's why it's handy for somebody to call it out. Because you know what I mean.
The last important thing about it is just that you can't group up on the person with the shield too soon, because with the number of AoE attacks, if everybody's standing in one spot, then the Lexus will target you with an AoE, and it's likely to kill the person with the shield. If the person with the shield dies, you lose the shield.
An
Another
interesting point
important-
though is you actually have 1 or 2 seconds of grace period after you pass through the shield where you still have the effect on you. So if you do have a damaging aura on you, or the person with the shield has a damaging aura, you just need to run in a little and run back out just as the attack's going, and you'll still survive.
It's
You have a
important
weird mist effect coming off you during that time.
to remember as well that those ground effects, they will change depending on what artifact you have. In that video there was a damage buff that's applied to your US players and also to the ads, but that can also be cause damage to yourself depending on what artifact it is. And other artifacts will spawn mobs into the arena that will attack you, and you won't get any ground effects at all. Or big bouncy balls that will chuck you about all over the place. So be wary that your ground effects won't be the same every time you go into this raid. It will vary depending on the artifact.
Yeah, the ones I've encountered are obviously you get that one in with the trident where the vortexes are to your advantage depending where the Lexes are positioned. The second one is the fields, the vortexes. I can't remember the artifact that does it. The vortexes will either damage you or you could have the buff from them. And the third type of vortex I've encountered is where they either give you power to yourself, or they can take it away. It varies. So yeah.
There's some that ground you and slow you down as well.
Oh, there you go. I think that's the power ones.
There's some where it's not just a single mechanic to the vortex. There's some it changes every single time, but rotates between them in the same fight.
I think the most annoying one is the bouncy balls.
Oh, without a doubt.
Balls again, where if you
get
get hit by
bounced by
them, they will
three of
just
them.
like pinball you around the room. You'll get bounced about all over the place. So you can imagine it's quite difficult to get players up if they've been downed, if you're being bounced across the room.
Or if you got the shield and go, I got the shield. I don't have the shield.
I had the shield and now I'm over here.
Brilliant. Well, that concludes this video guide of Nexus of Reality. Hope it's been useful. We'll bring additional mechanics and tactics as and when. If you have any questions or opinions, please feel free to send us a message on the YouTube channel, in-game, on the official forums, and we'll be happy to respond.
Or call me on my home number. I'm free most nights.
Thank you. Odyssey out.
Bye. See you guys.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Hello.
Come on, Leon, back!
What happened?
You reset.
Time is up. Oh.
We had him! He was dead!